Wouldn't you love a food and wine-soaked Italian adventure? Sounds like a dream come true, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's part of the story behind Andrew Cotto's third novel, CUCINA TIPICA. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
You did.
You sound like a real Italian.
All right, well, when you're hanging out with the company, yes. How
You
are
are
you?
welcome with us anytime.
Thank you very much.
You're
The book is great.
Thank you.
And it really takes you into not just Italy, but like old Italy, right?
Yeah, there's the historic sense of what it's like to live there on an everyday basis is sort of what it explores. So it's sort of the less beaten paths that the tourists might travel among, and we find our character just falling in love with the place. You know.
So, but is it you or the character? Because I feel like, where does our fact stop and, you know, literary license take place? Because you live there in what, in the Tuscany region for about a year?
That's a fiction writer's favorite question. You know, how much of this is you, how much of it is make-believe? And most of my work is a combination of both. In this case, it's a place that I know and lived and love immensely.
Tell us about the place.
I lived in the hills south of Florence in an area called Bagno a Ripoli. It's a comune, a little community there of villages. I moved there. I quit my job here in New York, moved there with my wife and our daughter, who was 18 months at the time, and I wrote my first novel there, The Domino Effect, while living in these hills. And we came back to the States. I ended up getting my master's in creative writing from the New School and pursuing other novels. And people kept saying, when are you going to write the Italy book? When are you going to write the Italy book? And I just didn't have the Italy book in me. You know, there's memoirs about people going to Italy, you know, eat, pray, love, for example.
Right, exactly.
You know, I think mine would be, you know, eat, drink, repeat. Which and no one wants to read about that. So, you know, I didn't. Oh, maybe you do.
And your main character. Talk about your main character.
So I sort of, you know, pivoted my own experiences into an adventure that's more engaging for readers. So I made the character up, but I placed him in the exact setting where I lived, including the barn where I lived. We lived in a renovated barn behind a villa up in the hills, and he lived in that very barn. And he went to the same village we went to all the time. So the surroundings were very intimate to me, and I knew them quite well. But the things that were happening to the characters were all complete works of fiction.
Okay, so what were some of the challenges that the character faces?
Well, the character arrives in Italy on sort of an escape. He's crashed in New York. He sent out a sloppy text message at work. It cost him his job. Oof. It cost him his reputation. Yeah.
Did that ever happen to you?
Maybe.
Oh.
Actually, no.
He still works for the New York Times, so I think he's okay, right?
Yeah, I write for them freelance too. So it was completely sort of recognizing what happens a lot in this day and age, right? How one little mistake with a text message or whatever can really cost you everything, and that's what happened to this guy. He sent a text, you know, as a joke to a friend. It went to the whole company.
Is this sort of exploration of oneself also?
Yeah. Well, this guy is lost, right? He's feeling like, you know, displaced in New York. He goes to Italy to sort of escape and get his life back together and make his big return to New York, his big comeback. But when he gets there, he says, "I don't want to come back. I want to stay." So the motivation, the Italian adventure of this, which is the subtitle here, is his attempts to find a way to remain in Italy forever. He wants to be an American Italian, and you know, I wouldn't let the term adventure fool you. It's not the Da Vinci Code.
Right.
It's not chasing down alleys and uncovering
scrolls. But you did take us on a delicious journey through food and wine. And
absolutely.
You brought us some things here this morning, because on the cover of your book, CUCINA TIPICA, there's a boar.
There's a wild boar, yeah.
Wild boar.
And what do we have here?
We have wild boar.
On the set.
On the set. You know,
so tell us about your, I guess, encounter.
Yeah, well, it's a fictional encounter, luckily. In Cingali, they call them in Italy, are indigenous to certain regions, Tuscany in particular. They live off truffles on good days and acorns on bad days, so they're a delicacy. The people hunt them. In the novel, there is one sort of roaming the property where our main character lives and sort of stalking him in a way. And they have a face-to-face encounter.
It becomes personal.
It becomes very personal. It's not like Jaws. It's not like soundtrack. Dun, 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 but it's kind of like that. The Cingali is really interested in their property because of the truffles that are hidden there. They have a head-to-head encounter. And I can't give away how it ends,
give it away.
but it ends similar to this. There is a ragu served at the end of the novel. And, you know, at the last meal, there's like 25 meals in the book. You know, the most important and last one is a Cingali ragu at the village sagra, the village festival, and it's, you know, our main character sort of provides that meat and sort of like, you know, establishes his bona fides in Italy by doing such, and they drink it with this very wine, this Brunello di Montalcino.
Is it hard to find that particular wine?
It's well known in Italy, but you can get it in the States. It's Il Pilgione. Brunello di Montalcino is the greatest Italian red wine.
I like this because we can eat and drink while we're reading your book.
Absolutely, it goes well together. You just need a napkin. You got to do the old napkin in the neck thing, right?
And I love this because, like, after you finish the interview with us, you're going to Venice again, right, for work?
I'm going on a story for the New York Times, but it's actually a great story. The FDNY goes to Venice and engages in boat races with some Venetian gondoliers. And there's a very special event coming up over Labor Day in there where the Venetians, post 9/11, reached out to the FDNY and bring their families over there.
Lori, we need to go cover this.
We need to go cover
I'll cover for you guys.
covering them.
Sure, we'll go. We'll be like an entourage.
Right, exactly.
That'd be great.
I love
Yes, I'm going soon.
So will you just stay there while you're there?
Every time I go, I'm always like, I might not just come back, but I will go and I will come back.
Because your wife and your child need
I'm
you.
a college professor too, so.
Where do you teach?
LIM College, where business meets fashion, right here in Midtown, and we start the day after I get back. So I'm catching a flight on Labor Day, starting classes on the Tuesday. So I need to be back for my kids. My
Absolutely.
students,
Safe
who I love.
travels to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And if any of those kids are watching right now, you better read his book before school starts.
Yeah.
And learn how to make sliders.
Just read the book. I'll make the sliders.
Cucina Tipica. So nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
So nice.
Pleasure.
It's
Thank
been
you,
great.
guys.
Thank you
Good
very
days coming
much.
right back.